Welcome to the latest webinar from SaveTheHighStreet.org in our series Succeed During Lockdown and Then Beyond. I'm Michael Whedon and I head the High Street Advisory Board for Save the High Street. I'll make a few introductory points before introducing today's excellent panel. If you have questions for us, then please pop them in to the chat, which you'll find somewhere about the middle. There's a little icon there, and we'll ask the panelists when we've had a little chat about a number of things. SaveTheHighStreet.org exists to save the high street, one business at a time, one good idea at a time. And if you go away today with just one good idea that you can do something about, we would count that a success. Hopefully more, but I'll settle for one. Now, as lockdown 2 comes to an end next week, let's hope there's no lockdown 3, the different types of high street businesses face different challenges. Non-essential retailers have been forced to keep their doors shut while watching their essential counterparts, particularly supermarkets, continue to sell. And we're not just into the Black Friday fortnight. I keep getting messages which say things like Black Friday starts Monday. But we're well into the Christmas selling season. Face-to-face service providers on high streets are struggling to make the most of their opportunities to operate while maintaining expensive and inefficient COVID secure measures, and they're running well below capacity. Hospitality and leisure may or may not be able to do anything more than click and collect and delivery after Tuesday next week, depending on the tier they find themselves in. Uncertainty? I think so. So in the next few weeks, these are crucial times for trading and for survival into next year, and to the chances of these businesses, 250,000 of them, independent businesses across the UK, for success into what is still an uncertain future, even though with some vaccines announced, we have some light on the horizon. Selling is at the top of the list of commercial considerations right now. And as we're still in the second lockdown, it's timely, I think, to ask what high street businesses have done to take up new selling opportunities and what they can still do. In the summer, we surveyed 1,500 businesses with a set of 70 detailed questions. One of those showed how the great majority said that they had a website and they were using them for contact details and links and things like that. While they were quite strong on content and that, only 4 in 10 were taking payments online, which is a bit of a clue about what they're doing. 2 in 10 were taking bookings for services. 1/4 were offering click and collect. The same number were offering local delivery. 1 in 6 were offering reserved times to visit, which surprised me. I thought it would have been more. Another 1/4 were offering none of these. Fewer than 3 out of 10 had proper digital descriptions of their products, and 2 in 10 had images of all of their products. Yeah, a couple of miles from me, a retailer founded in 1780, 240 years ago, is now selling online. Used to have a brochure site and has put 4,000 products on his new site. My local pub is using its Facebook page to push its menu and Messenger to take orders and discuss. And our town wine merchant is doing that and delivering locally as well. So it looks as though while many high street businesses have upped their game, there are many more who have yet to do so. So it's timely, I think, we have a panel of experts today to answer the many questions in this area, which it's both challenging and I think it's fair to say it's full of opportunity. So I'm going to ask them in turn to introduce themselves and their organization very briefly. We'll get into the detail of what they do later, and then we'll get into those questions. As I have a habit of doing, I'm going to introduce them, ask them to introduce themselves having unmuted, which is of course the thing we're all heavily practiced at now, in first name alphabetical order. So Eugene Blaine, the screen is yours for a few seconds at least.
Hi, Michael. I'm Eugene Blaine. I'm the founder and chief executive of Rhino Software. We develop software for small businesses, and it links in with making tax digital and so on. we've recently evolved the app during the COVID crisis to help businesses trade online. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Mulligan.
So yeah, my name's Jackie Mulligan and I'm the founder of shopappy.com, which is a digital platform that makes it easier for people to support their local businesses, browse, book, buy, local, online.
Lovely. Do you like concise descriptions? John Abate.
Right. Hi, my name is John. I'm a visual merchandiser and store designer. I'm a lead creative at a retail design agency, Northbanks, and I'm also a fellow of the British Display Society. And I have about 30 years of experience in visual merchandising.
Is that all?
Maybe more. I stopped counting at 30.
Julie Holden.
Hi, I'm Julie Holden. I'm the Community Director for SaveTheHighStreet.org, working with Michael and the team to support independent businesses across the UK with business support and programmes like this one with the webinar.
Thank you. Alphabetically, last but not least, Paul Kelson.
Hi, Paul Kelson, CEO for DTC. We're an e-commerce consultancy. We're currently running e-commerce workshops at no cost to the retailer to help them out with anything to do with e-commerce.
Thank you. Well, I want to start with e-commerce because it's it's the thing we think most readily of, I think, when we're talking about lockdown. It's important to understand the structure of the UK high street. Looking at local data company figures, just over a quarter of shops are non-food shops. A similar proportion or percentage are service-based, like hairdressers and barbers and shoe menders and people like that. Slightly fewer are in hospitality and leisure. A significantly smaller percentage are actually into groceries and food and being a wine merchant and things like that. But that's just because in this country, supermarkets are so enormous in comparison to other shops. There's a sprinkling of miscellaneous types in there as well, which are having a torrid time at the moment. Some of them, that might be, for example, entertainment venues, which have really suffered over the year. But going back to what people tend to think of in this market as the heart of it, which is straightforward product e-commerce. And I know that you all have interest in different parts of this. I wanted first of all just to come to, I'm going to come to Paul, then Eugene and Jackie in that order, but standalone e-commerce sites, which one retailer in particular of my acquaintance told me 3 years ago are a thing of the past. They said having a completely standalone e-commerce site is making life very hard for yourself. It's a lot of hard work. You've got to get people there through search. You're going to be paying for adverts to get them there, and you've got to look after the whole thing yourself. I suspect if I bring Paul Kelson in at this point, he might disagree with that statement. Can I do that, Paul?
Yeah, I think it's all about the level of investment that you have and you're ready to make. And a lot of retailers that I've worked with over the years have utilized marketplaces, for example, to help generate as effectively as a cash generation tool. You're never going to build a brand on a marketplace. That's just not the way forward, and you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So a lot of them are using that to generate the revenue they need to invest into their own e-commerce sites. And then it's a gradual choosing the right marketing help and building on that presence and that brand within your site. I would say the most successful ones have been those that are pretty clever with the way they're working. So they're looking at local advertisement, social influencer marketing, getting obviously the SEO correct on their website so that they have a better chance of natural search, and PPC campaigns set up in the correct way as well. So that there's a lot that goes into it. It is a lot of upfront work and upfront investment, but long term it does pay off. So.
Okay, I think a lot of what you do, you might tell us a bit about your organization, is kind of that discovery phase of working out what's the best for people to do. Is that fair? That's a key element of what you do?
Yeah, so there's no cost to the retailer for this. We're also, as you're probably aware, we're doing a campaign in collaboration with Save the High Street as well, where we will give up our time for the retailer to help them, whether it's finding a platform or re-platforming from their existing legacy platform, running e-commerce health checks. So we would actually look at how they're operating as a business at the moment, what their strategy is, what they're looking to achieve, and what tools they have in hand to do that. We'd also look at their existing site if they have one. Sometimes people want us to look at the UX and design, user journeys and everything else, and just give them a good run through of their website and see what small changes can be made that can make a big difference. Also, we're happy to help out on the marketing side and analyze how they're working on that front as well. And that if there are B2B retailer, maybe they might be working with just tradespeople, etc., mainly helping them with a direct consumer strategy as well.
So a standalone website goes with a standalone brand. It all sounds like there might be a kind of a minimum size of business which might consider something like that. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that you do get successful online retailers that just start up with some stock. They set up their website and they'll take money out of their savings and risk it and go all in, and effectively a lot of them will be successful. But for an established retailer, I think that you need more than one person. Especially if you've got a brick and mortar store and you're dealing with the day-to-day of running that, you need the additional help, or to repurpose internally people that have the knowledge to be able to do that as well.
Okay, I'm going to come to Jackie in a minute, just because I watched her eyebrows go up a couple of times during that. Eugene, if I could bring you in there, I mean, you have a kind of different approach, and you have a slightly different market as well. You just describe a bit about the product which you have, because we are very much into the standalone there, but a very different kind of approach for a different kind of retailer. Could you just take the screen for a few minutes about that?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting example, because I have an interest in a restaurant, and they had to close down. So when they came to me and says we need some technology to carry on trading, I naturally looked at Just Eat. I looked at Uber Eats. Just go off and get one of those. And they came back and sort of said, but the commission that these companies are charging makes it's going to really eat into our profits. So, and they had a very good brand. So these guys were booked out for months in advance. So what we actually did is we evolved our product so people could advertise their own menu, people could browse it, people could order online. But we've integrated it into our wider product, where it automatically builds up a client database. Whenever it places an order, it creates the invoices behind the scenes, so it prepares your books for your accountant, and it's a full-blown system. The big difference is that if you're working for a larger tech company, they own the client, you pay them commission, and essentially you're a fulfillment partner with these larger companies. Whereas when using our product, we don't charge any sales commission at all. And it's actually your system, your clients, it's your business. I've got other experience of working with big tech companies. I rent a villa in the south of France. And when we started renting with a big big online company, their fees were £146 to advertise our villa. That was great, reaching a global audience. We were booked up and everything. Once it dominated the market, we now have to give them 20% of our revenue. They dictate the cancellation policies. So they changed the cancellation policies during COVID so customers could cancel up until the day they traveled and so on. So I would urge a lot of caution about, it's a very easy option to fall in line with the big tech companies. Yeah, there is a lot of, it's harder work staying independent, but if you can, and there's always a combination, so you can do a little bit of this, but my advice is try and build your own brand, try and stay in control, you know, try and build your own business so that you are self-sustainable. By all means, use whatever instruments are available to get sales and so on. But ultimately, lesson 101 in business, be in control of your own business.
Okay, I've really got to bring Jackie in here. Doubtless, you know, in control of the business, and they are in some ways. Could you just describe, because I think the underlying engine is the same as many of the other operations we would look at here in terms of Shop Happy, but can you describe what you do? Because it's very different, isn't it?
It is. So I get all these points about building your own brand. I couldn't agree more with Paul in that light. But it is often beyond the scope, the reach and the budget of many businesses to keep it going. So I think sometimes you use a marketplace, absolutely right, Paul, to establish yourself, get the money in, and then eventually create your own website. First of all, not every business wants to be a major brand on the high street. Some businesses are set up because they want to be lifestyle businesses. They're happy serving their community. That's what they've always done, and they're not necessarily wanting to be giants. So that's one part of it. The other thing is there's a brand over a high street that supersedes every brand on it, which is the place brand. It's how I feel about where I live. And that brand takes precedent on Shop Happy. So I care about where I live. I can now go and shop with businesses in my location. But what we always did, and we started 4 years ago, and it was very much transaction. So we were trying to play like Amazon. And what we realized was that actually when people shop their high street, it's much more about discovery. So putting on Eugene's point there, it is discovery. So we land people into the local shops and services in their area, at which point they can shop, they can search for products and do all of that gubbins. But they've also got their own identity, their own story, their own profile. And that is precedent for us, that basically you have to create an affinity and a human contact. So place is got to be the most important thing when you're talking about local high street. No two marketplaces are the same. Our marketplace does not take commission. So we are absolutely against it. When you look at some of these takeaways, they're literally working for Just Eat. They have no profit. So we don't play that game. As a customer, I want to know every penny I spend is going into my local businesses. And in terms of the control part, it's also how the marketplace operates. So we get to know our businesses personally, and we get to know their stories, and we see it as a partnership approach. So we learn from them and we see what they need. And not all of them want to play the online order game either. So they don't, you know, I want people to ring me. I want to have that human connection. We have to understand that everybody's at a different spectrum. And everybody, you know, there'll be everything from somebody who, you know, hasn't got email to someone who thinks they're Mark Zuckerberg and they've just ended up in a gift shop. So we basically can cater for all of that within the marketplace, because ultimately the first point is that if you get more people spending in your local community, all your businesses will thrive. Then they will be able to spend more on local website, other websites and other technology. But place is the biggest brand. And no brand can be bigger than a destination, and no emotional connection can be stronger. So Amazon, however great it is, I know people who love their town more than they love Amazon. They're still on Amazon. Why? Because it's easy. So all we need is our local high streets to be easy.
Does it follow from that, Jackie, and this is just ignorance on my part, that a whole town has to be opened up within your setup, or can it just be one business opening up in a particular place?
We've had one business and do really well as the town. We're like, well, high five, you are that town. Ultimately, though, we do try to create critical mass because we want people to see a real local alternative, and that's what they're looking for. And, you know, the idea of everybody standing individually, I think, is a real problem. I've seen more business directories. I literally want to put a gun to my head if I see another one. Nobody Facebook messages Jeff Bezos for a t-shirt. Nobody clicks on 15 links on Amazon for all different suppliers. Get real. It's one checkout. That's why people like it. So we've done the same at high street level. I've seen people try and reinvent what we've done, and it's hard. And some of the commissions, I just saw a council one that was 6% plus 20p for every order being put through. I mean, if you talk to a baker about a loaf of bread and say, sorry, mate, it's 6% plus 20p, do you think they're going to put their bread loaf on your site? I mean, you know, just the cool thing is that it's not any good tech person will tell you, don't reinvent things that already exist. You know, I'm sure that all of the people on this call use existing software. So we're saying we've got existing software, use it. We don't take commission. We're not the big bad empire. We want to help the local businesses. But what we do see is that when you've got that confidence up, then the business might say, well, actually, I'd quite like to do my own website now. Well, that's fantastic, because we've got you the confidence. You no longer see technology as the enemy. But on the other hand, if you're a super website, don't think that your market, that I'm all right, Jack, because if loads of other businesses are closed around you, you're dead. There's no point you having a bricks and mortar business, end of. So the whole point is you need to collaborate as a place as well. It's not enough just to go online. You have to go online together.
So together means different types of businesses. I've already mentioned some of them earlier. So some of them will be service-based businesses where, you know, it's time, for example, or just the details of how to contact them.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, no, definitely not details of how to contact them. Again, just remember Jeff Bezos. We don't ring him. We don't ring him and say, hey, Jeff, could I have that? It doesn't happen. So booking things, you know, we're amazed at the amount of classic retail shops that actually do events. There was a great one, which is a craft shop, and they did afternoon teas. I really wished I was part of that set that could sort of go off and have a craft afternoon tea. But I thought, what a fantastic idea. But these little events are really small. They don't make it onto the big sort of what's on tourist sites, but they're real fundamental parts of what they do for the community. So of course they can put a craft afternoon tea on Shop Happy and their own crafty shops, all their crafty products people would sell. We've got one art shop on Shop Happy, took all of his art classes and he put them on our platform. He didn't use Eventbrite because it charges commission, see? So he goes on Shop Happy. His classes now, 40 people a class, when in the real time, physical premises, he only had 8. So suddenly he's got the opportunity of reaching out. And the big thing is also testing products. That digital, the great thing about digital, and again, everybody who's doing digital on this call will know it, that you have a great way of experimenting. You can test a product by putting it out digitally. Worry if someone orders it, but test the idea on a digital platform and you haven't got any of that sort of overhead to worry about. Sorry, I've told that.
That's fine. I'll tell you what, by the way, if I do that, that means wind it up. Is that because otherwise, no. Anyway, no, that's fine. That was good. Eugene, you also, I think, cater for different types of high street business as well, don't you? So food we talked about, but time booking is part of what you provide, and things like slots for click and collect as well. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, I mean, I love the ethos behind Shop Happy, and I love the whole concept of communities, and I love the whole concept of, because we have to think about what sort of society we actually want to live in, and what sort of jobs we want to create, and so on. So well done on that. Love it. Yeah, we it surprises me actually. I've just listened to the radio today. We had a retailer on the radio. Can't wait till the shop gets open again, because they're now trading online. Trading online is Facebook. People are messaging them with Facebook and messaging back and ringing people and they're not there and so on. And they're playing into Amazon's hands, because Amazon, you can go on 12 o'clock at night, order, you don't have to talk to anyone and so on. So people have got to realize, and they've got to be realistic about what their customers want, and they've got to provide what their customer wants. So one of the things that we did with our online platform is we had click and collect. Now that sounds easy. You go on, you see your products and you choose them and so on. But what if you evolve that concept? What if you want to click, pay for it, and pick it up at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening? Yeah. What if you want to impose, with social distancing and COVID and everything, what if you want to impose a minimum of X number of orders per time slot every 10 minutes? So there's no queues at your premises. I'm pulling my hair out when I walk into the high street and I see queues outside shops. It is so unnecessary. Now, totally forgivable though, because it's okay when you're in a big company and you're in an Amazon and you've got billions to plow into R&D and services and advisors and so on to help you perfect your business model. I have huge sympathy for the small business owner because they simply don't have the resources, and their biggest resource is time. Yeah, and we noticed something during the first lockdown. As soon as things opened up again, it was just get the tills running. Yeah, just get as much money in again before we close down. Then they close down and they all start scratching their heads again. Now we're closed down. So my advice to people is you've got to plan. You've got to look at how your customers, look at why customers like dealing with Amazon. Can you replicate it? Yes, you can. And you can do it really cheaply. With us, £31 per day, no commission. And you can have a full-blown system up and running. Your customers can order at their convenience. They can do click and collect. They can do deliveries. They can order reservations and so on. So all of this is doable, but I have huge sympathy for the small business owner because they're very much on their own. And it's scary times for them, very stressful times. But I only wish that we could spend more time with them and help them to evolve their, help them to develop alternative business models. This isn't just for COVID. What we're doing with our customers is they are now realizing that there are other business models that will last into the future. So Bugatti's restaurant, if you go onto our website, I'll just show my screen very quickly, if you don't mind. Okay, so what we've got in here is, hopefully you can see my screen. We have all the business services that we do. This is for traditional businesses, contact management, estimating, invoicing, expense management, making text digital, etc. We've also got food and retail, and we've got some amazing, there's a brilliant webinar in here where we brought together all of the leading people in the hospitality sector, restaurants and so on. And they talk about how they've used our system and they've discovered business models that they've tried before and failed because they didn't have the technology. Well, the website's just my PC is very slow today. Okay, so there's a lot that we can do, but once again, the biggest difficulty with SMEs is they don't have the resources to actually embrace this stuff, and I have huge sympathy for them. And I don't know how to square that circle. It's very difficult, and I guess that's what webinars like this is for, is to help people to understand that there are alternatives. You can embrace other products like Shop Happy, like Rhino and so on. And we are here, we are trying to make a difference, and we're trying to help small business owners.
Okay, thank you. I've got to bring Julie in here because you're all about place and collaboration and making these things work in a very similar fashion to Jackie and the amazing stuff they have there. Julie, you want to bring us, talk us a bit through sort of local collaboration and how that can work? It might not just be actually the direct selling of things, but the wider bit about selling, like delivery and so forth, things which Eugene's touched on with click and collect and so forth. Have the screen for a little while.
Absolutely. We're working with a number of local communities. We very much work on a one-to-one basis with each business, and we explore what a business has tried, what ideas they might want to implement, and then what we try to do is we try to encourage people to reach out to within their local communities and to collaborate more. And we find that there are some very common themes, and where we get the opportunity to work with a small group of businesses who maybe are on one high street, who are all experiencing the same difficulties. Sometimes the solution can be a simple one, and it can be something that is on their doorstep. Around, we've talked about click and collect, and we've talked about local delivery options. there are various ways in which that can be implemented, and I've got insider knowledge of Shop Happy. I worked with Jackie for 9 months, and it's a brilliant platform, brilliant opportunity where you've got enough businesses in a place and you've got local delivery partners that want to make that happen. So that's great. But it's not always possible to do that. And sometimes our experience is that we find that a business just has to start somewhere, and it has to start doing something. And it's incredible just how many businesses are still not even on any platform, on even they don't have a Facebook page or any social media at all. And I think being able to connect with customers and know your customers and have that interaction is a simple thing and a simple way to just start to reach out, because it's not a case of bricks and mortar versus online anymore. Those things have to work together. They have to be part and parcel of the same business model ultimately. And then being able to, as I say, reach out to your local community, share each other's content, encourage people to come into your place, having collaborative events, you know, something that you can do in terms of loyalty, in terms of encouraging local spend, very much around a shop local type message. And we've worked with some great campaigns across the UK. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a national campaign. It can very much be a local and you know, very distinct campaign that doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Paul, I just wanted to bring you back. I will come to you in a minute, John Abate, so stay with us. Paul, one of the things I found from retailers, I think I built my first and worst e-commerce website in the year 2000. I think it was dreadful. However, it did exist, which is one of the important things. Is that talking to a lot of retailers at the time, they said, well, I don't want to go global. I don't want to be posting stuff out. I really want to, you know, I want to do my kind of stuff locally. The kind of thing that Jackie and Julie has been talking about. Is this something you come across as well? The feeling that, you know, let's say you have a standalone site, a standalone brand. Do they act locally? Do they feel they've got to try and act globally? I mean, what are the assumptions that small businesses come to when they approach this subject?
Okay. Well, I would say it depends on the business, obviously. So there are some that are set up where they want to go UK wide, at least as a minimum. But also a lot of retailers are looking into, you know, combining their store with their website. So you've got the ability to have an in-store POS solution that can connect into the back end of your website, and you can get a better customer service that way and deliver locally. So people that come into your store, you can just ask them for their details, like their email address or something, find their online account, or register them for a marketing newsletter. And then these people can look on your website and shop on your website, whether it's click and collect, local delivery, coming into store. They feel like you know them. And that's one thing that's sort of disappeared from the high street a lot, is, you know, people knowing each other. And you know, when you walk into a store and they pick up your favorite, you know, I don't know, brand of whiskey or whatever that you normally come in for, and they ask you, hey, what about that you normally get? Are you guessing that? You know, that's all disappeared. People don't know your name. They might be familiar with your face. So a way of bringing that back is also to use technology to get to know your local community. You can send out newsletters. You can do loyalty schemes using their account, and whether they're shopping online or in store, they have the same experience. They can see what they bought from you from the comfort of their own home. logging in, seeing what I bought in store versus what I bought online. If I need to do a return, then I can do it either way. There's so many different things that you can do with technology, and that's what a lot of retailers are looking into.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to Eugene because I know he's got a CRM element to his system. And then I want to come to Jackie to ask about what the users of ShopAppy get to know about their customers. So Eugene, can you just tell us, I mean, you told me a bit about the CRM system, which is part of your group of applications. Can you just, are you people using it? I mean, do they understand it?
Absolutely. So, you know, large corporates invest hundreds of millions in CRM systems. A lot of people, CRM, that's managing all of your contacts and being able to communicate with your customers effectively and so on. Just following on your last point, you can have a local business and it can be totally grounded in your local community. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be reaching out to an international audience. Give you a great example. Little town, probably haven't heard of it, called Killybegs, biggest fishing port in Ireland. They've just invested huge amount building a pier, and they've got the QE2, they've got all the big cruise liners coming in. They all jump off the cruise liners, they walk around the shops for a couple of hours, get back on the cruise liner, and they disappear. So during the summer, for about 6 weeks, they have a whale of a time, the local businesses. They're making a fortune, yeah? Beautiful town, loads of little craft shops and everything. I want to buy presents for people now this Christmas. I can think of loads of presents that I would like to buy in those shops. I can't, right? So I think it's a hell of a luxury, any business owner who's choosing to only sell local, yeah? I think you can have a local brand and these shops are really local, but there's loads of people who've been to that town. You know, it's the same if you go into some of the beautiful little villages in the Peak District and so on. Being there, I remember that shop. I remember that thing. I'd love to get something out of it. It's just too much hassle trying to figure out how to buy it. They make it difficult to trade with them. Yeah. So building up a client database. So when people come off this cruise ship, they come into your shop and they buy something, having their details, being able to send out a nice little mail shot or whatever, or a little mailer, we've just added this, we've got this in, we've got this lovely new range in or whatever. I think, oh, I might get that for someone's birthday, I might get that for Christmas or whatever. Give people, try and make it as easy as possible for people to give you money. That's my advice.
I thought cruise ships were a thing of the past. Anyway, Jackie, through your systems, do people get to know their customers?
All right, but I've got to build on what Eugene's saying there, because we're seeing virtual tourists coming to our towns. So that's great. I mean, I can order a trunk of gin from Whitby at the moment, and that builds on the point. You've got an attraction to destination. You want to go and shop there. We've had people from Romania making orders in Banbury for friends and family. So that's why destination kind of stuff works. So the question, what was the question again, Michael? Sorry, I was like, that's it, virtual tourism. Sorry, go on.
It was about getting to know your customer through your site. So with Paul's site, for example, you would have a one-to-one relationship when people buy with you. If you have a place-based operation, is that also true?
Yeah, because all the businesses have their own identity. So first of all, you can ask a question of a business through the platform. You can obviously, when a customer comes in, they've got information, and have a chat with them, and can put little bits in it. I've got a little video of me opening up some wonderful things from a little shop where they just personalized it so much they do get to know you. It doesn't have to be this faceless cardboard smile activity. It can be so much more. But also we give the business, every business data, and we've just done a big mailer actually with all of the data in terms of where the traffic's coming from. So also that enables them to see where the weaknesses are. Is it mostly coming from organic? Is it being driven by social? What could they do that's different? So that's part of it. But what we're not trying to do, and I don't want anybody to leave this webinar with this impression, we are not trying to create online shoppers on ShopAppy. We're trying to create local shoppers. So actually the biggest thing we want is people to discover it and think, God, that looks like a really nice place. Oh, I really want to go into my high street. Right now they can't. So whilst they can't, we'll let them still support local with home delivery, click and collect. And we can do that all the time when they're busy. The high street was in decline prior to COVID because it wasn't digitally resilient. Now it's time. Now it's time to address that gap. But you know, the whole sort of thing of getting to know the customer, the best place is them in store, chatting to them. That's better for our own humanity to do that, and it's better for the planet that we do that. But yet they get information about the vendors, and they put personal notes in, and you can see it all transacting like that because these are the friends. One of our most regular customers is 80 years old, and she chose to go online not because she hates online. She found out about us in the local newspaper. She went on there because she saw Nick, a local butcher. So she thought, oh, I can trust Nick, and she chose to use online shopping. That got her over the line because she had a friend at the other side of it, not a faceless empire.
Thank you. And one of the beautiful things about shops, real actual shops, when they're done well, is they're really nice places to be. You like to go there because this is, and it says something about you. You know, you go to a really, really pretty shop and you think, this says something about me actually as much as anything else. Now, an expert in this is John Abate, who spends his time making beautiful windows and beautiful layouts, really attractive, that bring people back. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to bring John to us today was, and this is something you may have seen elsewhere, I wanted him to bring a very good example of the ability to actually project that through the website, through social media or whatever, with a system you're working with to extend that into people's homes, onto their phones, onto their screens. Over to you, John, and I think you're going to be sharing the screen to show us what you're talking about here as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I've a couple of years ago, I kind of started to see the future of retail as being, you know, phygital, omni-channel. You have to have both, is my belief. Of course, I come from a physical world, but I find most online shopping really just products on white backgrounds and a little bit of content, and it's just really lame. So I thought, well, how can visual merchandisers start to get involved in online? There's a small insect flying in my face right now, of course. So I've been looking for it, and these guys, I'll start sharing screen now. I met these wonderful guys from up north called I See You Online, and they do the, I have to try to make our pictures smaller. They're in the way of my screen. They're called I See You Online, and they basically use Google Street View to do 360 shots. But what they have, which is really interesting, is an interactive overlay that you can put on those 360 views. So that was exactly what I wanted to do. That was a technology I had envisioned and I found. So it's already existing. It's actually quite easy to do. So, but it wasn't really adapted for retail. It was really more like institutions, schools. But I really wanted to see it in retail. So I have a friend of mine, he has a shop on Portobello Road, a gentleman's shop called Tonic. And I convinced him to invest in the 360 view. So this is actually Phil's website. So it's Tonic, and he's got, you know, all his other information, but he's embedded the 360 view in his website. So I'm going to just show that to you now. Okay, my trackpad is, okay, I hate my trackpad. All right, let me close this. So this is an introduction. So this is what you see when you go onto his website, and there'll be a little introduction. And then you have these arrows. Okay, sorry, I just need to get orientated here. Okay, so these arrows will take you into different areas of the store. And all throughout the store, you see these little pulsing dots. And these are all products that you can, he's a multi-brand shop. So we had to think of a way of how can this 360 view work for a multi-brand? We merchandised everything by brand. So you click on a brand, it goes to that brand. You have information about him. He's actually here at the back of the store. We'll meet him in a little bit. So you use your trackpad or your mouse to just look around. There's even a video from the supplier. So for example, we can look at Edwin, and there will be the products. If you want to shop Edwin, you just click on that, and that takes you to his website. And you can just start the shop. So then you go back, you close that. So we can go a little further into the shop. And again, what was interesting, I was in his shop yesterday doing his Christmas windows, and a customer called saying, I see there's more socks in your store than there is online, because he hasn't put all his socks online. So she wants to come into the store to look at the socks. So it's interesting that this actually can drive traffic into your store, because it's probably impossible to put all of your products online. So you're just putting the products that you have a lot of stock of, or that it's easy for you to sell. But it does encourage people to come in if they can. Of course, now it's great because they can't come in, but they can fully, experience your store by going around. So this is a video from Bailey, a hat maker that he sells. And further back, you can make an appointment with Phil. So this goes straight into his appointment, straight into his appointment software that he has online. I even have a little thing here about plants are good for you. So you can basically create a hotspot and put any content you want. I've got his Instagram up here. He's got a little sign with his Instagram so that you can link straight to his Instagram. And you just go more into the store. And there should be a video. This is actually, he doesn't want people to know, but Brian Eno actually gave him that disco ball. He doesn't really say that. He alludes to it. So I think on the wall over here is a picture of the Beatles. So if you click on that, you go to a YouTube of the Beatles. So that song will play. So the idea is that you experience the store virtually as you would in real life. So if you go back here, this will be an interview. He's celebrating his 20th year. So there's a little video of him talking about what it's like to be in business now. He celebrated his 50th birthday, his 20th year, and he's up from Liverpool. And I think whatever football team up there finally won after 20 years. So it's quite a big year for him, but also an awful year. So he's personally talking to his customers there. So that's really about it. So you can,
Thank you.
I'm really excited about this. It took a little bit to figure out how to merchandise the shop. These shoes are not really there. They're virtually there. So it took a little while to figure out how to merchandise the shop and get this to work. But I'm just trying to bridge the gap between online and offline. And I think this is really quite an exciting tool.
I think it's exciting. I saw this and I thought this is really nice. And it reminds me of something I saw from Google 10, 15 years ago. But what they were doing there was they had some appointed local photographers who would do the 360. And then they were attempting to do optical product recognition on the products in the shop. I was a bit maybe early to achieve that, but you could see the value of it, given the effort that so many small businesses and big businesses put into the insides of their shops to make them welcoming and interesting places. Perhaps you could stop sharing that one. That'd be good. We could have some people back. Thank you. That you could see the value of this, because we do like a good shop. And I noticed recently that, and I'm sure, by the way, that Paul and Jackie could see some use for this as well in sites. I noticed last week Ted Baker talking about doing a variation on this, which I'm surprised I've not seen, which was personal shopping on video, in stores, live. So actually, it's always occurred to me, why have I got to go to a shop? And especially at the moment where something like 25% of people are still avoiding going to shops, leave aside lockdown, they're just avoiding it anyway. And actually, I'd really quite like to be able to speak to the man at Pew's, which is the 240-year-old retailer, not the bloke, that's the retailer, and talk about what we want. He can tell me things and I can ask questions and we can look at stuff and we can transact. Julie, this is something that we particularly have discussed, is a kind of the personal shopper element of it as an extension. Possibly we can go beyond what John's just shown us to a bit more interaction, because 94% of adults carry smartphones.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not about major investment. This is about making yourself available for your customers, and having that relationship with your customers. If you're in your store and you're available and you can have online chat with your customers, there's nothing to stop you from being able to offer that personal shopper experience. And Michael and I were talking earlier, and it was a bit of a blast from the past, actually, because I worked for the Sears group of businesses back in the 90s, and they introduced personal shopping in Selfridges. Must have been about 93, something like that. And it did feel very special, you know, somebody booked an appointment for a personal shopper and you would be escorted around the store, and they'd make sure that you could, you know, get access to everything. There's nothing to stop people from offering that service on a personal basis. If you've got a smartphone and you've got the ability to communicate with your customers, I'm not suggesting you do that on a 24/7 basis. It would need to be on a timed basis. But then, you know, using that plus the tools that we've been talking about already, you know, you've got a lot of opportunity there to engage with customers and to just make it an experience. And that's what people are still looking for. They're still looking for an experience and something a little bit special.
Thank you. I think Jackie wanted to come in there.
Just because it's the geek in me, but I've got Oculus Quest and Oculus Rift, and they're
Yes.
VR environments. And I meet my friends in those environments now. We go to retro cinema, we watch a movie, we can play table tennis, we can play Beat Saber, which is the most fantastic thing. So this 360 is just a tiny part of what we will be able to do. There's no question. The Oculus Rift has no cables, it's super easy to use. And I'm not suggesting, you know, I'm all for getting into physical shops because you can't beat the experience, but there are people who can't get into physical shops for all sorts of reasons beyond COVID. And I just think these immersive experiences are the way forward. And honestly, if you haven't tried Oculus Quest, it will blow your mind. You need to do it.
It blew my mind when I got mine last week. And I got my Quest 2, and it's fantastic.
The sports bar, you can go to the sports bar, have a beer, play pool, whatever, with your mates. It's amazing.
Okay. Thank you. So, John.
This 360 view works with that. So you can wear Oculus and use the 360 view with it. So it works in different
Excellent. And presumably, Paul, easy to retrofit or to fit to the sites you build?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly easy. I'm not very high tech at all. And I set this all up for Phil, and I taught him how to use it, which is, you know, pretty amazing when I'm so low tech, you know. So well, it's actually pretty easy software to use. It's really intuitive, you know, and he plays with it now. He sits there and adds products and adds videos and you know, he's getting feedback from his clients that they really find it fun, you know, to be able to visit him when they can't.
Paul, are you getting demand from this from
No, I just started. This is my first example. I've been trying to get, you know, it's been very difficult to get any shops to do this. They're all.
No, I was asking Paul. Paul's down there.
That's okay. Yeah, I think something like this is definitely next level. You know, if you've got an e-commerce platform up and running, it's creating a landing page for that, you know, and linking it into your e-commerce should be pretty simple. So yeah, that's quite exciting.
Yeah. And you, Jackie, you like that? You can see that throughout Shop Abbey.
Muted.
I can see it, but I think that one of the things we've all got to be mindful as people who are really into it, like me with Oculus Rift and being generally becoming more and more of a geek as every year passes, is that it's that spectrum thing that, you know, there's a proverb that I always use with Shop Happy, a Chinese proverb: if a leader gets too far ahead of his troops, he starts to look like the enemy. This is about taking businesses with us at whatever stage they're at, and technology for too long has looked like the enemy. We could get all crazy about VR, AR, all immersive holograms, all that. I get generally excited about all of that kind of stuff. But essentially, the first bit we need to get is the internet. Get people online and then start the journey and take people a step at a time. Some people will be way ahead of it and want to do it, and that's great. But I think we just have to be mindful of the pace of this.
Yeah, I mean, something I've always said to the retailers I've dealt with, because I have a background with Independent Retailers Association for several hundred years, was just take a first step. You know, don't necessarily have to take the big step. It's something that Eugene, I think, and Jackie particularly make easy to take that first step. But I mean, looking beyond that, Julie, even simpler things. So 84%, according to our surveying of high street businesses, have some presence on Facebook, for example, or Instagram. 94% of adults carry smartphones, and about 80% of us are active on some social media channel or other. Am I right? I mean, what's the response you get, Julie, when you're talking to people and say, just take the first simple step, like the local pub I'm talking about, or the wine merchant? This sounds bad, doesn't it? Because I'm only connected to the wine merchant and the local pub. So it's not looking good, is it? But I mean, I think, is it reasonable to assume, Julie, that you would say that's an easy first step? Do that before you go through these other stages to really committing to the things you can do?
Yeah, I think taking that first step is really important, and I think also as well, people's budgets need to be considered, and it's a very difficult time for businesses at the moment. They don't have spare cash, so doing something that is very sort of inexpensive to do. So, you know, there's no cost involved in setting up a Facebook account. There's no cost involved in making regular social media posts and being able to collect information about your customers. There's ways in which all of that can be done without incurring costs. And I think once people realise it is easier than they think it's going to be, you know, they can then start to think a little bit more broad in terms of the opportunities and the possibilities of e-commerce. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're not online currently, that would be the very first thing to do, is to just get yourself an online presence of some kind.
Okay. I just want to ask very quickly, both Jackie, Paul, and Eugene. We've had a second lockdown. I think we'd assume we get one of those. I hope we don't get a third one. It's been if people didn't get the message the first lockdown, do something. Did they get it the second time? Have you seen a peak in interest in people getting online over the last few weeks, Jackie?
Yeah, I mean, our rate of engagement and organic business registration has gone through the roof. We launched in Derbyshire, going across the whole county last Tuesday, and we had over 100 businesses register in 4 days with hardly any calls. I mean, one call was 7 minutes and 5 businesses had signed up. They've got it. They understand digitalisation is absolutely crucial for them to stay connected, no question. And also the media interest in businesses adapting. Customers are obviously lending more support to businesses that are adapting to their needs in this crisis. That there's research that showed that after first lockdown. Visa did some research on it. So, you know, if not now, when? This isn't the high street wasn't doing well beforehand. That's why Save the High Street exists. It's why Shop Happy does. This is about the reawakening. People have discovered the corner shop is where it's at. The local shop is important, but now you have to make it easier for them to support you.
Yeah, I mean, ONS figures actually show that prior to this year, half of what was sold online was sold by bricks and mortar shops anyway, the multi-channel shops. That's been the case for the last 10 years. It's just a story we tend to miss. Paul, have you seen a peak of interest of businesses wanting to get online?
Yeah, certainly, and existing businesses that are selling online at the moment as well. They've set up just a landing page in the past, maybe non-transactional, and now they've been panicking since the first lockdown, and knowing that a second lockdown was on its way, there was a massive rush. Also, I would say that there's also been a look at costs as well. So you may have an existing platform that in the past cost you a lot of money, but business was good and everything was fine, and now you're looking at reevaluating that, and there's a phenomenal amount of money that people have spent in the past on a yearly basis just on support and maintenance for some of these platforms, when they can just get something that's just as good but is less of a headache and cost.
And I know that that's been true of you, Jen. I don't have time to come to you, I'm afraid, because we are at the end of our hour. I won't carry out my usual sort of incompetent chairing and let it roll on. Thank you all for coming, my panel in particular, but I'm impressed to say all the attendees who signed up are still here. And I have been to, yes, exactly, Jackie. I've been to a number of other webinars where that doesn't always happen. And the reason is there's good stuff here, I think. So I hope everyone found that useful. I always find these conversations fascinating. The recording of today's webinar will be published shortly, probably tomorrow. And tomorrow we have a powerhouse webinar on a different subject. It's all the people issues around employment, furloughing, contracts, COVID safe operation, and emotional and mental well-being. It's all been a bit of a strain for a very long time, and anyone running a business knows the way that can have dragged people down. And next Tuesday, on the 1st of December, as lockdown 2 come to an end, I lost a bet. I said they'd carry on. They've actually changed that. We will turn our attention to marketing and the high street business and where we go from here. So I hope people have found value today talking about selling online. There's still a lot to be done. There are huge opportunities. Doubtless there are a lot of challenges, but as our attendees will see, the expertise out there and the features which are out there are just astonishingly useful, astonishingly good. And I hope that as many businesses as possible take advantage of them. So we're going to end this, because there's no nice way to end a webinar, as I was saying earlier. I just have to press the red button, which terminates it all, with maybe a virtual 5. If you've got a virtual 5 for me, that'll make a good screenshot. Thank you everyone for coming. Goodbye. See you soon.